Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Go Detecting. Now, if you've been following the news on the Nokta Legend 2, you'll know things have been a bit quiet since Dilek's update in December regarding test unit recalls. So I've spent the last few days doing a really proper deep dive into the technical side of what's actually happening behind the scenes. But for that, a quick caveat. I'm not a tester. I haven't got a unit. And this info comes from a lot of deep mining of forum data and tracking tester feedback. So while the tech details look solid, take it all with a pinch of salt and use your common sense until the final retail units land and we see some actual physical testing. But let's continue. First up, the coils. The recall was largely driven by a hardware issue with the new LD series of coils. Now, from what we've been told, the Legend 2 is running significantly more transmit power than the original Legend. And during the first round of field tests, it turned out that the original shielding on the LD28 coil specifically wasn't robust enough to handle that extra power. And this was causing stability issues, basically a lot of coil chatter, where the machine would false signal because the internal shielding couldn't isolate the increased EMI produced by the machine itself. And the fix wasn't a software patch, it was a physical hardware revision on the internal shielding of that coil, or those coils. And the latest reports from Tier 1 testers, and I've got more on the Tier system in a minute, suggest this change has completely silenced the machine, even when running sensitivity high in sensitive ground, and by that I'm assuming they're meaning mineralized ground. So what are Tier 1 testers? Well, Nokta validation process works this way. They break it down, as do many other detector brands, into 3 tiers: Tier 1, 2 and 3. So Tier 1 are the beta testers. These are the engineering consultants and technical experts employed by the company, so in this case Nokta, who get the very first engineering samples, and their job is specifically try and break the machine and find those fundamental hardware fixes or flaws like the shielding issue we just talked about. Tier 2 is the validation stage. This is usually where the Nokta nomads and other major dealers, the ones we see here on YouTube, come into play. They receive the final pre-production units to check the software stability and see how the machine handles detecting in a real-world, everyday scenarios. And because they're based globally around different parts of the world, you don't get a geographic location bias. So that's quite a good way of doing it. And Tier 3, well, that's basically us, the public. Once a machine is out and everyone who opts in for the latest firmware updates and then feeds back any issues they have, that helps refine software and hardware even further via that feedback. And we know Nokta is very good at listening to and acting on customer feedback. So, in reality, the fact that Legend 2 is now back with Tier 1 means they are verifying the actual hardware fixes before letting those nomads loose to the final versions. And that's why we haven't seen or heard any video chatter or watched any videos from these people doing their tests on the Legend 2, because it's still at Tier 1. The next thing that was mentioned was the display. And this wasn't just about making the screen look pretty. I mean, it looks pretty good as it is. It was a fundamental processing issue. As we know, with the Nokta Legend 2, Nokta has moved from a 60-point VDI scale to a 99 target scale, which gives a much finer resolution for the target identity. However, the early units were struggling with ID stability, and the numbers were jumping or flickering too much because the software was trying to process too much data too quickly. The other technical snag was the Pinpoint ID refresh rate on the Legend 2. You can see the target ID while you're pinpointing. But testers found a ghosting effect where the ID couldn't keep up with the core movement. So Nokta's had to recalibrate the display drivers and the signal processing algorithms to ensure the ID is rock solid and reacts in real time without that digital lag. One other thing that was mentioned, but there's no real feedback as to what they did with it was screen contrast. Apparently the screen was a little bit too dark and you couldn't see it when the sunlight was bright. So that's quite an easy fix really, but it didn't need an awful lot of any reworking of algorithms. So probably why I've not been able to find any feedback as to what they've done to sort out any contrast issues. So that leads us to the software. Now, the focus of the Legend 2 software for updates is OTA, over-the-air updates. And being able to update your detector via a smartphone app is brilliant. We get so used to doing it on our phones. No longer do you have to plug your phone into your laptop, connect to the manufacturer's website to get a download. We've been having phone updates over the year for donkey's years. So why is it only now the detecting world is catching up? Who knows? But they are. The issue was the Bluetooth handshake protocol between the app, the server, and the detector was a bit flaky, to say the least. And if the connection dropped mid-update, there was a risk that the machine could be bricked. And so they've been hardening that connection to ensure that doesn't happen, because let's face it, nobody wants that to happen. They've also reportedly been refining the 19 frequency shift channels. At the moment, the current Legend has 13 channels you can frequency shift on. The new Legend 2 will have 19 of those channels to better handle environmental EMI, which should make this one of the quietest machines on the market once it launches, especially considering the new shielding around the coil, and with the stability of the VDI, this should be quite good. And finally, the bit that many people have still been asking about, even though it's out there, and that's the price and what you're going to get. So in the UK, we're looking at a pre-order price of £999.95, so 5p short of £1,000. And for that, you get the LD28 11-inch coil and the LD21 8-inch coil as standard, plus the aptX Bluetooth headphones. But I'm going to repeat this, as many are still asking. Your old LG series coils from the original Legend will not work on the new Legend 2. They will not work. And this is not just because of the architectural changes to the power output and the fact that it's got 99-point processing. It's also the fact that the Legend 2 LD series have a totally different shaft to coil connection, making it impossible in normal operational use to mix them up. So just for example, at the moment you have your shaft going into the coil, the ears on the coil. On the other one, it's kind of reversed. The shaft's got two lugs and the coil is a single and goes inside them and the bolt goes through. And the fact that the shaft is round and not trapezoid, like on the current Legend, you can't change the shafts around. So there should be no real method of swapping the coils in general use. It is a bit of a blow if you've got a collection of Legend coils, but that's the price you're going to have to pay for the increased performance and the punchier output and potentially better stability. So that's what I've been able to find. And like, as I said before, the caveat is I'm not a tester. This is what I've discovered through doing a seriously deep mining event on the internet. So again, take it as you see it. Believe what you want to believe. But I'm surprised we're not hearing anything from Nokta, and that's quite frustrating. Because by now, we should be hearing something about what they're doing. What's the next steps? When will we see these machines being tested? When will we be able to buy them? I believe they're looking to release this around about the end of Q1, early Q2. Time will tell. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And as always, please like and subscribe. And once the fields dry up, I can get out there and do some more live detecting. And when it stops raining, I can get to the beach. And then when my garden's a bit better, I'll be able to do that depth test. So, thanks for watching again. Keep tuned, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you on the next video, and above all, happy hunting and stay safe. Cheers now.